Hello YouTubers, Troz here. Back with a Satisfactory update, let's say, because, well, I've run into some problems, and some of them are my own making. Uh, I had wanted to get out this weekend a video showing off, like, the next 2 floors of my nuclear production facility, this being the first of them. And I almost have everything on this floor set up except for power. But then I came to realize something. Well, before I get to that, I did have some other issues I had to fix. I think I figured out the issue with the train kind of bypassing the one station and then coming back. I noticed on Reddit that someone had posted that if you delete, like if you have an intersection here, and you delete the one part and then put it back without also separately deleting the switch, that connection isn't really valid, because the switch was kind of there blocking it. And you know, if you delete one branch, you have to delete the switch. Like in this case, that would be the switch on both sides, the one there and there, so that when you put them back, they're recreated. And I think that might have been what happened when I built that one station. I kind of deleted something and put it back without removing the switch, and so that the game didn't consider that to be valid. So it, it thought it couldn't like enter from the one way, so it bypassed around the station, came over here to turn around, because the only way it thought to get into the station was, coming like from this direction and curving in, because like that connection would be invalid. No, I mean not that one there, but the equivalent for the material station that I have about here. So I fixed that, but in the process, this train was still driving around, and the cars became detached from the locomotive, but not really. Like, the game thought they were there, but like the locomotive would be here, and if I could look around, that is the one problem. Like, I don't mind the game making backup saves. I've had it crash once or twice, but it just takes so long. I wish I could adjust the interval to maybe every 15 minutes instead of every 5. Anyway, so like the locomotive was here, and the cars were like maybe still coming down there, but they would move at the exact same rate as the locomotive. The loaders and unloaders would move as if the cars were here, but they were really over there, and you'd see them, like, the containers disappear and like appear here. Apparently there's an issue where I'm still not sure the entire circumstances, but according to the switch directions, the locomotive may decide to go one way, but the cars, because like the switch is the other way, don't go the same way and go some other way, and because of that they get desynced because they're traveling a different path. They still go the same distance as the locomotive goes, but because they're taking a longer path, they wind up trailing behind. So I basically had to delete the whole train, rebuild it. I've played with some of the settings for these switches, and it hasn't happened again yet. So that's the good thing. The thing, though, that is my own fault is the plan for this whole factory is a poor one. I had planned this factory out, the nuclear fuel production, not too long after the experimental update number 2 was available, and I guess either the tool I used wasn't updated with alternate recipes yet, or maybe they weren't even in the game yet. So I had just planned it out using the basic recipes, and that gave me this plan. I showed this off in an episode or 2 ago. It should have been the last episode. And this is making 5.3 nuclear fuel rods per minute. Each fuel rod lasts 5 minutes. That gives you about 26 and 26 and a half nuclear reactors that you can run simultaneously. And at least one other video that I saw, someone had set up a very similar setup. They were using 27. I guess they were just rounding up. So I thought that was the correct and the best you could do. But playing around, I went and tested some stuff, and I now have a setup that can produce 28 nuclear fuel rods per minute using the same. Here's the limit is 600 uranium per minute. This uses just under, because that's what a Mark III miner on a normal node at 2.5 or 250%, which is the highest you can overclock things, can do. But here, using this configuration, which I'll try to explain in a minute, exactly 600, the same normal node at 2.5 or 250%, we're getting 28, which is like more than, or about 5 times better, which means you can support 5 times more reactors. In fact, that gives exactly 140 nuclear reactors, which would be something on the order of over a quarter of a terawatt, or 350,000 megawatts, which is, let's say, in the crazy realm. But producing this is going to be hard, but I think I want to go for it. Let's show the things that make this possible are these last 3 alternate recipes here. First, I'm not sure what the normal recipes for these are, but if we compare it to here, we're getting in almost 600 uranium per minute, and we're making 135 uranium cells. So that's about a 5-to-1. I'm not sure the exact ratio. I didn't figure it out. Which is that's where most of the waste or issue comes in. Where here we're doing like 600 to 450, which is much closer to 1-to-1. It's say 9 to 12. 12. That's sulfur. For every 12 uranium, we're getting 9 uranium cells, where before it was something like for every 6, we were getting 1. So, but now, to get all this, we need, well, first, more of everything, but in addition, we need sulfur, which we didn't need before, and we need quartz, which we didn't need before. And along with making more uranium cells, we're getting better fuel rods. The previous one was making 1 fuel rod at a time, where this makes 3, and so it needs less cells per fuel rod and less control rods, and then we're also making control rods at a better rate. But all these now, okay, we're relying on high-speed connectors now. In fact, one strange thing, not really strange, but we would have needed 7 circuit board assemblers and actually have them in place in what I had already built, or it would have been 8. And now we only need 2. But in place of circuit boards, we're now using a lot of high-speed connectors. In fact, we'd need 25 manufacturers of them. So besides everything we were importing, we'd have to import sulfur, a lot of quartz, We need to more than double our caterium ore. More than double our copper ore. Double our iron ore. But, I mean, we're using only 0.6 of a 1 miner, so 1.1 isn't bad. Hey, where we're getting it from, we can either overclock that one slightly or just put a second miner. There was another node there. Like, the train we have would be able to supply this. I think it might be able to supply the copper as well. If not, hey, we have copper node. Well, let's go to the map. We're right here. We have copper nodes right in front of us that I wasn't touching. So, hey, we can tap another one of these. We probably, like I said, just overclock the 1 miner slightly, even, you know, by 10%. Well, 10% would be the minimum. I'd do it at least 25%, but, you know, just to make sure we have enough. The problem is the caterium. Even if we overclock this one node all the way, it won't be enough. There is another node over here, though, so we'd have to set something up. Either another train or something. Maybe a train on the same line, but we'd have to have a different station for it. I wouldn't want to have a train just coming over here to dump it in there, because I think that's more than we could go for a single train. You know, the time we take to do our whole loop here, we'd run out before we refilled. We need sulfur, and there is a sulfur node not too far, so that we could definitely do. It'd have to be overclocked at 250%, and it'd be just on the limit, but hey, so is our uranium, so I don't think that's really an issue. Not that we'd ever be using this at 100% even. The limestone, we could get away with the 1 miner right at where we're producing. Overclock to 200%, that's not a problem. Yeah, the caterium ore, that would we'd have to go into the second one. As I said, the copper, again, we'd also have to go into a second, but we have one right in front of us. The crude oil would be an issue. We'd need, like, well, we need 4 overclocked to 200%. We might get away with 3 overclocked to 250%. But the other real biggie that'd be a problem is raw quartz. We need a lot of it, because we're going to use it to make concrete. Where's, oh, do we not need concrete? I guess we don't technically use... Really? Okay, before we... the previous one, we needed concrete, because that's what made the uranium cells, and we also needed the industrial beams to make the fuel rods. But now we don't need concrete at all, except that these now use silica, which you need the limestone for, and so does high-speed manufacturers, high-speed connectors, not manufacturers. Need silica if you're using the alternate recipe, which I wanted to do as well. So technically not making concrete, but still need the silica and limestone for that, and quartz. So quartz is going to be a big problem. And right here's where we're getting the quartz for our main base. We're driving the truck all over here to get it. But this wouldn't be enough. I mean, we're taking from one, and even if we took from both, it wouldn't be enough. However, if you look over here, these are 2 pure nodes, and they would definitely be enough. Not that one, this one. So we need 6.1 of a normal node. A pure node gives you twice as much, So we need only, let's say 3, just to make the number easy. And then we could overclock a machine to 200%, which brings it down to 1.5. Overclocking it to 250%, I mean, would cut it down a little more, but let's say at 1.5. But we have 2 of them, so that would be fine. But I definitely want to put in a train here with 2 cars, 1 for each, and then we could have it stop here, pick up the sulfur that we need, and come here. From there, the only problem, like I mentioned before, is the oil. But we could take 4 of these, overclock them. Well, let's say these 4. We'd leave these 2 still supplying our base with oil, and 2 should be enough. And if not, we could overclock them a bit, just to supply. Well, to supply the main base, we could almost turn off the fuel production here at our main base, which actually right over here. And just use the rubber and plastic in the production here, because we really aren't going to need the fuel generators anymore after we have this all set up. The problem, again, as I said, is we're gonna have to tear all of this down. But you know, we're basically doubling. Let's see. We have 9.710 iron foundries right now. That's going to have to go up to 17, so almost doubled. Almost double on the copper. We're going to have to triple on the rubber production. And luckily, everything is rubber. We may need to add another car to the train for that. But yeah, rubber. Actually, yeah, maybe that's what I can do is take a car off and maybe make it another train dedicated for rubber and caterium. We'll see how that works out. How many steel pipes were we? Steel pipes, we had 22, and that's going to go up to like 41. So everything's going to be doubled. Or almost doubled. The problem is I was just barely fitting things in. Come on. Oh, you're probably saving. There we go. So I showed off the first floor last time. I did... Like I said, this is all running, or was. I had all the copper wire going out that way, but I redirected the one set of copper wire this way, because this was exactly enough for this stuff, which I actually forget what it is. The circuit boards. Yeah, so we have the circuit boards here. They needed rubber. So the rubber would come in over here through this way. And we get our circuit boards. I didn't set up the output because I wasn't sure if I needed to come out this way or that way. But while the rubber was being produced here, the circuit boards were being produced here, we'd have... Let's land before I run out of fuel. Yes, we'd have the rubber going that way, we'd have coal coming this way, and it would come in the front there and go back where we'd have the leftover iron, because we were making wire with the iron wire recipe, but the excess iron would come up here and get combined with coal to make steel here. We take the steel out of, this was 8 foundries and make pipes out of all of it with what I believe was 22 or 23 constructors here. And then all of that, or most of the steel, or a large portion of the steel pipe would come here and get combined with the rest of the wire, which would come up on these two belts to make stators. I had all the inputs set up. I didn't have the output set up because I wasn't sure if I'd need it to come up that side or that side, you know, depending on what would be more convenient for the next floor. And yeah, that was this, and that would actually be a decent portion of this plan done. This was done iron foundry, steel foundry, wire. The copper was also on the first floor. The rubber we were converting over where we were pumping it up. Steel pipe and stators and circuit boards. Like the next floor we'd do like concrete, caterium, and probably quick wire. And you know, from then, okay, then the floor above would be like the AI limiters, the control rods, and probably the case industrial beams. And like the next floor, we'd have just a dedicated uranium train, uranium cells, and then maybe actually the fuel rods. And then on the roof would be all the, you know, nuclear reactors. So we were probably close to halfway done. But now I gotta tear all this out if I'm redoing this. And you can see here, like the first floor, we only fit 2 rows of machines, but I managed to fit 3 here. But I might go 1 square further back just to have a little more room, so we don't have to have things quite as tight as I have them here. Like, there'd be enough room to put in some power poles there, but like not here. Part of the reason why not here is, hey, we have 2 belts, so I'm pulling off the first belt, and at this point it would have pulled off, what do these need, like 60? So it would have pulled off 2400 off of the, well, it wasn't 480, it was, I believe it was a 450 belt. I mean, they can hold 480. So then we like take half off the top belt as soon as I get control back. There we go. So we take like half off here and merge it in. Actually, it would have been more, it's like 3600 at that point would have been pulled off of a 450 belt. So we'd merge half in, and then a little further down merge in the rest. And if I did my math right, again, it would be almost nothing theoretically at that point. So there'd be plenty of room for the rest. But yeah, there's not really... Look at that, I'm out of jetpack juice. So, yeah, need a little more width just so, you know, run poles. So I don't really want to go much forward because, hey, there wouldn't be room to run these up. Yeah, so this was 10, or is 10 wide. I may go at 11th. It was 25... Or maybe I made it 26 long. I figured out that I have room for another 7. So we can add another 7 before we hit the ground over there. So that would give us a little extra room. Things like the steel pipe, we could do 2 rows of 20. We would have to. 34 or 35 quick wire assemblers. That would probably also have to be 2 rows because the assemblers are wider than 1 block. One foundation. But most everything else, like, okay. Well, that technically could be 17, but the way it breaks up, you'd have to do like 10 for this, which would be 450, but 7 is not quite 320. So you'd have to do 8, 10 and 8. I mean, that's not too bad. 18. We couldn't do the copper smelters next to them because there wouldn't be another room for 18. But, you know, we'd have to work something else. Basically, what I'm saying is I've been talking too much, and I'm going to have to redesign this whole factory. So it's probably going to be another few days, because I'm going to have to tear this all out, try to put in more space, floor space, and then rebuild both of these floors, and then do a video on it, or at least rebuild the first floor, do the first half of a video, and then redo this floor. So sorry for the lack of updates, or lack of progress, let's say. I mean, this is an update. I even put in this nice little, well, this can stay. I'll probably, as I said, have to put in another station, or 2 even. One for like the quartz sulfur train, and one for like, I don't know, a caterium oil train or something to that effect. And like the car that's currently caterium here, maybe have to turn into a second. Well, it wouldn't have to be a second copper if I'm just going to use one of the coppers here. Like, I was using this copper just because, hey, we're already have a station here, so why not use the train as well? But if we're going to need more iron, well, I don't think we're going to need more. Like, don't think we're going to need a second car of iron because it's still only, 270 a minute, and the car can hold, let's say at least 5 minutes worth, and it doesn't take the train that long to make a complete loop. It's not that far. It's it's here to here to here. I don't have the coal, but the coal comes from right about here. The station is somewhere over here, and then to here, and then back. I mean, technically it goes here, coal, oil, here, back. Now that everything's working, but anyway, yeah. Rambled on too long already. Be redoing the station. I'll have to be going and doing some hard drive research to actually unlock those 3 recipes. Where am I gonna go here? Okay, that is the way I wanted to go. It's probably not going to put me the right way here, though. Except it did. Because I have to head back to my base, get more jetpack fuel, do some hard drive research, and hopefully sometime next week I'll have something to show you. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys then with more Satisfactory. Thanks for bearing with me.